Hey, this is going to be the beginning of a series on playing with a metronome. And most of the time when I talk to somebody about playing with the metronomes, uh, I get a response of like, oh, I hate playing with metronomes. They're so boring. They're so restricting. And I totally understand that because most of the time we were all instructed to play with a metronome where it's just like play, the metronome's just clicking on the downbeats or on the quarter notes. And we're just here to just like, we're just told to just play right along with it, something like this. Right? And we're like, what am I supposed to do with it? It just seems very vague and just meant to be frustrating. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to use the metronome to play on the silences between our phrases, between the beats that we're playing or the riff that we're playing. And in my case, I'm just playing a quarter note beat, right? So my silences would be on the upbeats, the ands. So before we get into it, let me just show you what I'm using here. It might help make sense of it a little bit. I'm using a Dr. Beat metronome. And what it's got is, it's got the kind of like a built-in mixer with all the different subdivisions in it. So right now I've just got the quarter note slider up a little bit, and that just plays the quarter notes. And then I can bring up the eighth note subdivision. And then I could bring down the quarter notes again. So what that'll allow me to do is I can play both of them and then just bring down the quarter notes. So if I'm going like this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So I can just have a metronome on the offbeats. And I don't know if you're like this, but I have a lot of trouble. Like, let me stop and say this. Some people might be like, well, you don't need a fancy metronome like that. You could just take a normal metronome that just plays clicks, and you can just think of those as the offbeats. And you're absolutely right. If you can do that, more power to you. That's awesome. I have a lot of trouble doing that. As soon as I hear the first click, my brain just automatically thinks of that as the downbeat. So I find this very useful, where I can just have them both up there. And then I can just slide down that quarter note. You can make your own loop in your DAW or anything like that where, you can do this exact same thing. You could just have like 2 bars of an eighth note click, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then at the end of that phrase, you just leave out the downbeats and just have the click playing on the ups. That's a great workaround for that if you're like me and you have trouble hearing the metronome in that new way. So let's give this a try. I'm gonna start this, and we are just gonna play a simple beat and just let the metronome play in the spaces between. All right, let's see what that sounds like. So here's both of them. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. So what you'll hear there is that now you're focusing on your silences between the notes instead of actually trying to like focus on the metronome and the beat that you're playing right on top of the metronome. There's just too much information for us to focus on. So now we're able to hear the click on the offbeats, on the silences, and we're able to judge like, oh, is that click getting too close to the next beat? You might have heard like as I was stopping mine, mine was shifting a little bit. It was getting a little bit kind of out of sync. So I find this to be much more fun. This, to me, is like kind of like when you are in your car and you've got your turn signal going, and you start like playing on syncopated rhythms against your turn signal. It's kind of it's just something that everybody does. This is kind of like that. So when you're practicing with this, I want you to don't do any drum fills, don't do any riffs or anything like that. Just play with this for a while and really get comfortable with hearing that click on the offbeat and start to embrace it. Like when I play like this, I always just think of this like click as like a reggae rhythm, just because like, you know, reggae a lot of times has that like that offbeat accent. So to me, it feels automatically more musical. So let's try this one more time. I'm going to play it to the end, and let's see how you guys do with it this week.